Hello students, today in our paper Organization Behavior with paper code BBAP 3305, we are going to cover the topic of third unit, that is group decision making and intergroup behavior. I am Ragini Dikshit, working as Assistant Professor, School of Management, BBD University. Now, coming to the contents of this presentation, we have group decision making meaning, what does it mean, then what are the various techniques of group decision making, then advantages and disadvantages of group decision making, then we will come to intergroup behavior, its meaning, then various factors which affect intergroup behavior and how this intergroup behavior can be managed and improved. Coming to the meaning of group decision making, group decisions may involve assimilating a huge amount of information and exploring many different ideas and drawing many strands of experience, and the sequences of the right or wrong decisions may be profound for the team and the organization. For obvious reasons, decisions made in groups can vary considerably from those undertaken by individuals. It is this potential divergence in outcomes that make group decision making attractive, and we can say that group decision making is a situation faced when individuals collectively make a choice from the alternatives before that. That is, individuals are involved collectively and they make a choice from the alternatives which are before them. Now, the decision is then no longer attributable to any single individual who is a member of the group because it is taken collectively. This is because all the individuals in social group processes such as social influence contribute to the outcome. The decisions made by groups are often different from those made by individuals. There is much debate as to whether this difference results in decisions that are better or worse. According to the idea of synergy, decisions made collectively tend to be more effective than decisions made by single individuals. Factors that impact other social group behaviors also affect group decisions. Moreover, when individuals make decisions as a part of a group, there is tendency to exhibit a bias towards discussing shared information as opposed to unshared information. Now, coming to the various techniques of group decision making, these are your nominal group technique, brainstorming, Delphi method, dielectric decision method, electronic meeting, and multi-voting. Nominal group technique. The nominal group technique, as the term itself suggests, restricts discussion or interpersonal communication. The group members are only physically present as in traditional meeting, but they operate independently. When a problem is presented, the following steps are taken in nominal group technique. That is, members meet as a group, but each member independently write down his ideas on the problem before any discussion takes place. Then each member presents his idea to the group either by writing on a flip chart or chalkboard. No discussion takes place until all ideas have been recorded. After this, the group discusses the ideas for clarity and evaluation. Each member silently and independently rank orders the ideas. The final decision is taken on the basis if the idea with the highest aggregate rank. The advantage of this nominal group technique is that it permits the group to react formally without restricting independent thinking, as happens often in the interacting group. So each member of the group, first he writes down his ideas, then each idea is discussed among the group members, and then that idea which has the highest aggregate ranking, that idea is selected. Now, Delphi technique. Delphi technique is similar to nominal group technique, except that it does not require the physical presence of the group members. In fact, it does not allow the group members to meet face to face. The steps of this technique can be stated in the following sequence. These are: the problem is identified and members are asked to provide solutions through a series of carefully designed questionnaires. Each member anonymously and independently completes the first questionnaire. Now, results of the first questionnaire are compiled at a central location, transcribed and produced. Each member receives a copy of the results. After viewing the results, members are again asked to give their solutions. The results triggers new solution or cause changes in the original position. These steps 4 and 5 are repeated as often as necessary until a general consensus is reached. Then, as a nominal group technique, the Delphi technique saves the group members from one another's undue influence. Since it does not require the physical presence of the participants, the Delphi technique can be used for decision making among groups which are geographically scattered over distant places. For example, Sony has used this technique to get feedback from its managers posted in Tokyo, Brussels, Paris, London, New York, etc. as to the best worldwide price for one of its products. The singular advantage of Delphi technique is that it avoids the problem of getting the executive together at one place and thus saves the huge amount of money spent on travel, etc. Delphi techniques has some drawbacks also. In the first place, it is extremely time consuming. Where a speedy decision is needed, this technique cannot be used. The response to the questionnaires may not be satisfactory. Moreover, this technique lacks the rich harvest of alternatives and creative ideas that come up in face-to-face interaction. Now, coming to the third group decision-making technique is brainstorming sessions. The group decision-making technique known as brainstorming was developed in 1939 by American Advertising Agency. Since that time, it has been widely used by business, government and military institutions. The principles underlying brainstorming can be stated as follows. No ideas are criticized. Then, freewheeling is encouraged. The more outlandish or unusual an idea, it is more better. The emphasis on quality of ideas. As we can see from the principles stated above, brainstorming is a clever device meant to overcome pressures of conformity that obstruct the development of creative ideas. It is in fact an idea generation process that encourages all alternative approaches and withholds criticism. In a typical brainstorming session, generally 6 to 10 people sit around the table. The group leader clearly states a problem. The group members then freewheel as many alternatives as they can come forward within a given length of time. Without any criticism, all alternatives are recorded for discussion and analysis. Even the most bizarre idea is not criticized and the members are encouraged to think the unusual. That is thinking out of the box. It is basically a process of generating various ideas. Then comes your another technique, that is dialectic interaction. This technique is applicable only in certain situations but is an excellent method when a situation actually demands it. This type of problem should be such that it generates output in the form of yes or no. For example, a decision is to be made whether to buy or not to buy a product, to merge or not to merge, to expand or not to expand, and so on. These types of decisions require an extensive and exhaustive discussion and investigation, since a wrong decision can have serious consequences. There are many advantages as well as disadvantages of this type of situation. The group that makes the decision is divided into two subgroups, one in favor of the go decision and the opposing in favor of the no go decision, and depending upon their ideas, the final decision is taken. The first group enlists all the pros of the problem solution and the second group lists all the cons. These groups meet and discuss their discoveries and their reasons. After tiring discussions, the group switch sides and try to find weaknesses in their own original standpoint. This interchange of ideas and understanding of various viewpoints result in mutual acceptance of the facts as they exist so that a solution can be put together around these facts and ultimately a final decision is reached. Then comes the next technique, that is electronic meeting. The most recent approach to group decision making blends the nominal group technique with sophisticated computer technology, and it is called the computer assisted group or electronic meeting. It is a meeting in which members interact by a computer, allowing for anonymity of comments and aggregating of votes. Once the technology is in place, the concept is simple. Issues are presented to the participants and they type their responses into their computer screen. Individual comments as well as aggregate votes are displayed on a projection screen. The major advantage of electronic meetings are mystery, honesty, and speed. Participants can anonymously type any message they want and it flashes on the screen for all to see at the push of the participant's board key. It also allows people to be brutally honest without penalty, and it's fast because chit chat is eliminated. Discussions don't digress and many participants can talk at once without stepping on another's toes. The future of group meeting undoubtedly will include extensive use of this technology. Team decision making is a time consuming process, and before the team leader organizes the participation of the full team, he or she must be sure that it has enough time and resources for the decision making process and choose a technique that is most appropriate in a given situation, keeping the profile of team members in mind. Now the next technique is multi-voting. It starts with a number of rounds of voting where an individual casts his or her vote for the options that are shortlisted. Each individual can cast one vote at a time. In this way, the options favoring the maximum number of votes is carried to the next round. This process is repeated until a clear winning option is obtained. So these were the techniques of group decision making. Now coming to the advantages of group decision making. Group decision making provides two advantages over decisions made by individual. First is your synergy and sharing of information. Synergy in the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When a group makes a decision collectively, its judgment can be keener than that of any of its members. Through discussion, questioning and collaboration, group members can identify more complete and robust solutions and recommendations. The sharing of information among group members is another advantage of the group decision process. Group decisions take into account a broader scope of information since each group member may contribute unique information and expertise. Sharing information can increase understanding, clarify issues, and facilitate movement towards a collective decision. So it leads to synergy and sharing of information, and each group member contributes unique information. So there is a wide range of information on which the group decision can be based. Then these are with the various disadvantages of group decision making. These are diffusion of responsibility, lower efficiency, and finally your group think. Diffusion of responsibility, that is one possible disadvantage of group decision making. It can create a diffusion of responsibility, and that results in a lack of accountability for outcomes. In sense, if everyone is responsible for a decision, then no one is. Moreover, group decisions can make it easier for members to deny personal responsibility and blame others for bad decisions. Then lower efficiency. Group decisions can also be less efficient than those made by an individual. Group decisions can take additional time because there is requirement of participation, discussion and coordination among group members. So it can take more time as more participation, discussion and coordination is required by the group members, and without good facilitation and structure, meeting can be considered in trivial details that may matter a lot to one person but not to the others. Then finally, the advantage of group decision making is groupthink. One of the greatest inhibitor of effective group decision making is groupthink. Groupthink is a psychological phenomena that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision making outcome. By isolating themselves from outside influences and actively suppressing dissenting viewpoints in the interest of minimizing conflict, group members reach a consensus decisions without critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints. Now, coming to our next topic, that is intergroup behavior. An organization is an aggregate of many smaller groups. The study of groups is vital for the understanding of behavior because individuals seldom act without being influenced by others. Behavior takes place within a group, even if that group consists of not more than 2 persons. But the individuals who are involved in a group, they behave in a particular manner. Much of the research on social functioning in general has been done in a small group settings. It has either been related to the basic characteristics of group behavior or has been focused upon the applied aspects. Studies on work team management, conference groups and academic committees have proved that omnipresence and importance of the groups and the intergroup behavior. The process by which people interact face to face in small groups is called group dynamics. Groups are generally vehicles or instruments for the fulfillment of the needs of the people and for the achievement of the goals of the organization. But this is possible only if there is a positive intergroup behavior. Now, understanding intergroup behavior. Personality, customs and traditions are developed in a group. There are certain characteristics of a particular group that differentiate it from other group. It is the collective behavior of people within a group that makes it have its special personality or its individuality as a group. These people belonging to a particular group have a different personality or individuality. Just as leaders have styles and patterns of behavior as perceived by followers, groups also have modes or patterns of behavior as perceived by others. The following views of the various schools of thought are important to the understanding of group behavior. First, people tend to perform tasks better in the presence of others. For second, it is believed that conflict is a natural and inevitable outcome in a group. It is believed that all conflicts must be avoided for the smooth functioning of the group. It is believed that the conflict is not only a positive force in a group, but it is absolutely necessary for a group to perform effectively. Two distinct organizational groups are linked through the bridges known as intergroup relations. The efficiency and quality of these relationships may have significant bearing on one or both of the group's performance and their members' satisfaction. Early theories of intergroup behavior. Dollard, frustration aggression hypothesis. He believed that frustration can be solved by achieving life goals or through aggression. How it is related to intergroup behavior? This hypothesis attempts to explain why people scapegoat themselves. Scapegoating as a group necessitates that in-group members settles on one specific target to blame for their problem. That is scapegoating, blaming others for their problem. Generally, people belonging to a particular group, they have they have the same persons to blame for their problem. They have same reason to blame for their problem. Generally, they develop a compelling shared ideology when negative conditions frustrate groups' attempts. Generally, because of negative conditions which causes frustration in group members, they generally start sharing a same ideology. Then coming to realistic conflict theory suggests that mutually exclusive goals can cause intergroup conflict, and it is supported by Sheriff in 1966. Then coming to social identity theory, arises from minimal group paradigm in which people assigned to minimal groups with no identity favored, giving a large intergroup difference between groups. This suggests that people have an innate desire to be members of better group. This self is a personal identity, and these can be salient depending on context. We then self-categorize and act in accordance with group prototypes. Social identification can lead to self-enhancement, and intergroup differentiation heightens self-esteem. That is, if we belong to better group, we have self-enhancement and we feel better, heightened self-esteem. However, low self-esteem does not motivate intergroup differentiation. Self-categorization also reduces uncertainty. Improving social identity. To improve social identity, when in low social groups, people can live if intergroup boundaries are permeable, but fixed boundaries lead to social creativity or social competition. Social creativity occurs if a hierarchy of group is seen as legitimate and involves creating new dimensions of comparison, redefining the existing dimensions, and comparing with different outputs. Social competitions happens when hierarchies are seen as legitimate and involves low status groups seeking to change the hierarchy through protest, action, or revolution. Social cognition and intergroup behavior. We automatically engage in cognitive process to understand the world. That is involvement of mind. We automatically engage our mind to understand the world. The accentuation effect is where we overestimate within group similarities and between group differences. The relative homogeneity effect is the tendency to see out-group members as similar but in-group members as distinct. Intergroup emotions theory states that emotions felt are in relation to identity of the group. Goldberg supported this idea, showing that guilt and anger can be high within a group but low across society. Now, factors affecting intergroup performance. These are the various factors. Factors affecting intergroup performance. First is coordination. Coordination is at the core of successful intergroup performance, and efforts directed towards improving coordination may get affected by a number of factors. The first important aspect we need to know is whether the groups really need coordination. If yes, then the degree of interdependence need to be determined. The type of interdependence most frequently identified are pooled, sequential, and reciprocal. The most complex form of interdependence is reciprocal. In these instances, groups exchange behavior input and output. For example, marketing departments and the accommodation and the food and beverages service and production department are reciprocally interdependent. Marketing people in contact with the customer acquire information about their future needs. The marketing department then relays this back to the accommodation and food and beverages services and production department as per the requirement of the customer. The long-term implications are that if these departments do not conform to the requirements which the potential customers find desirable, marketing personnel are not going to get bookings. Thus, there is a high level of interdependence among accommodation, food and beverages service and production and the marketing department. Accommodation, F&B service and production departments need marketing department for information on customer needs so they can create their product as per their requirements. Marketing depends on these departments to create products that it can successfully sell. Thus, there is a high degree of dependency, requires greater interaction and increased coordination. Then coming to the next point, that is task uncertainty. It is another aspect as far as tasks in which the groups are involved are concerned and where the question of coordination may arise. For example, the group's tasks range from highly routine to highly non-routine tasks. That is, hotels handle all kinds of guest groups every day for whom laid down regulations are followed. But when it comes to handling an international conference for a period of time where VVIP delegates and other local VVIP movements are concerned, this activity is unstructured and exceptions and problems that are difficult to analyze because of the security needs arise. Highly routine tasks have little variations. Problems that group members face tend to contain few exceptions and are easy to analyze. Such group activities lend themselves to standardized operating procedure. The key to task uncertainty is that non-routine tasks require more processing information. Tasks with low uncertainty tend to be standardized. Further, groups that do such tasks do not have to interact with other groups. Then comes your time and goal orientation. It also affects the intergroup behavior. Time and goal orientation refers to the difference between groups in terms of their perception of what is important on the basis of time frame which governs their work and goal orientation. This makes it difficult for groups with different perception to work together and thus make coordination a problem. For example, a sales group would want to sell maximum as its goal centers on sales volume, increasing revenue and market share. The customer's ability to pay for the sales it makes are not its prime concern. But people in the credit department want to ensure that sales are made only to credit-worthy customers. These differences in goal often make it difficult for various groups to communicate. It also makes it more difficult to coordinate their interactions. Then how the intergroup relations can be managed. First, formalized rules and regulations should be there. The most simple method and the one with the least involvement of cost for managing intergroup relation or intergroup behavior is to establish in advance a set of formalized rules and procedures to specify how group members are to interact with each other. In large organizations, for example, standard operating procedure for each activity are specified. Even for recruitment and selection of additional staff, such rules and procedures would minimize the need for interaction and flow of information between departments. The major drawback here is that it makes the system and procedures rigid, and also that it works well only when they recur often enough to justify rules and procedures for handling them. If rules and procedures are inadequate, the use of the enterprise hierarchy becomes the primary method for managing intergroup relations. Coordination. Coordination is achieved by referring problems to a common superior higher in the organization. The drawback is that it takes on a lot more time of the superior, leaving very little time for other matters. Use of planning is the next step in facilitating coordination. If each group department has a specific goals for which they are responsible, then each group department knows what they are supposed to do, that they should have proper planning for achieving that goal. Then comes your intergroup tasks and responsibilities. They are resolved in terms of goals and contributions of each group. Problems may be faced where groups do not have clearly defined goals or where the volume of contracts between groups is high. Individual members may play specialized roles of liaising which would facilitate the communication between two interdependent work groups. But when the groups are large and interactions are frequent, this may not work as there is a limit on individuals' ability to handle a number of information at the same time. Now, improving intergroup relations. Categorization, stereotyping is necessary to allow us to function, and humans have an innate problem with diversity, as this is complex and drains cognitive resources. Alpert in 1954 said that intergroup contract must be prolonged, have official support and equality of status, and involve a cooperative activity to be successful. However, there is a mixed support and it is difficult to generalize positive interpersonal attitude to positive intergroup attitudes. Superordinate goals involve working together to reach a meaningful goal and have been shown to improve intergroup relations, according to Sheriff in 1966, but they would worsen relations prior to cooperation due to distress. Superordinate identities can cause in-group biasness at a subgroup level. So it is important to promote the subgroup and superordinate group at the same time. However, superordinate identities could cause conflict at higher level. So this was all about your group decision making, why it is important, what are the various techniques of group decision making, then your intergroup relation or intergroup behavior, how these groups behave, then what are the factors which affect intergroup behavior, how can they be managed or they can be improved. This was all about your intergroup behavior or intergroup relations and your group decision making process. Thank you, class.